The galactic archive floated in the darkness of space like a jewel catching the last rays of a dying star. Inside its crystal walls, thousands of beings from different worlds worked together to preserve the knowledge of the galaxy. Some had scales, others had feathers, and some were made of something that looked like living metal. They all shared one purpose: to understand the mysteries of the universe. Dr. Hyun-ki stood before the monument wall with his 4 eyes narrowed in concentration. His insect-like body clicked softly as he shifted his weight from one leg to another. He had spent 20 cycles studying this wall, and it still made no sense. The symbols carved into the crystal surface seemed to shimmer and change in the light, but their meaning remained hidden. "Still nothing?" asked Bora, walking up beside him. She was a Talesian, tall and graceful with 4 arms that she often used to gesture when she spoke. Her skin changed color slightly with her emotions, and right now it showed the purple tint of frustration. "Nothing," Hyun-ki replied. His translator device made his clicking sounds into words that Bora could understand. "The quantum matrices failed again. We have tried everything. Pattern recognition, temporal analysis, even psionic interpretation. The language refuses to reveal itself." Bora looked at the wall with 2 of her eyes while the other 2 scanned a datapad in her upper hands. 12 worlds, Hyun-ki. We found this same script on 12 different planets, always carved into monuments that cannot be destroyed. Every civilization that has tried to decode it has failed. Some of the greatest minds in the galaxy have studied this for 847 cycles. "I know," Hyun-ki said quietly. "Sometimes I wonder if it is even a language at all. Perhaps it is just art or some kind of decoration." "No," Bora said firmly, her skin flashing red for a moment. "It is too consistent. The same symbols appear on all 12 monuments in the same patterns. There are repeated sequences, grammatical structures. It is definitely a language. We just do not have the key to unlock it." Behind them, the archive buzzed with activity. Scholars from 7 different species moved through the halls, sharing discoveries and debating theories. The archive was supposed to be a place of peace and learning, but lately there had been tension in the air. The newest species to join the coalition, the humans, were arriving today for their first official visit. Hyun-ki had read about humans. They were a young species, barely 3 generations past their first faster-than-light journey. They came from a small blue planet on the outer edge of the galaxy, a place they called Earth. Their planet had suffered through terrible wars before they finally united and reached for the stars. Many in the coalition questioned whether they were ready to join the galactic community. "The human delegation will be here soon," Bora said, as if reading his thoughts. "Commander Tae-yang is not happy about it. He thinks they are too primitive, too violent." "Commander Tae-yang thinks everyone is too primitive except his own people," Hyun-ki replied. "But the coalition voted, and the humans have earned their place. They will learn just as we all did." The sound of footsteps echoed through the hall. A group of humans appeared, escorted by a coalition guide. Hyun-ki studied them with interest. They were bipedal, like many species, with only 2 arms and 2 eyes. Their skin was various shades of brown and pink, and they had hair growing from their heads. They wore simple uniforms that marked them as representatives of their world. Most of the humans looked around with wide eyes, clearly amazed by the archive. But one of them, a man near the back of the group, walked with a different posture. His shoulders were squared, his eyes constantly scanning, and his face was weathered like old stone. He had the bearing of a soldier. The guide, a floating sphere of light named Kira, spoke in the common tongue.
"This is the monument wall, one of the greatest mysteries in our galaxy.
The script you see here has never been translated despite centuries of effort." The humans moved closer, taking pictures and asking questions. The soldier stayed back, his hands clasped behind him. He seemed more interested in the exits than the wall itself. Then something changed. The soldier's eyes fell on the monument wall, and his entire body went rigid. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened slightly, and he took a step forward as if pulled by invisible strings. Bora's sensitive hearing picked up something. A whisper so quiet that none of the other humans heard it. Her head turned sharply toward the soldier. The man raised one shaking hand and pointed at the wall. His lips moved, forming words in his own language before his translator caught up. When it did, his voice came out rough and disbelieving. "That is Korean," he said. "Old Korean. Very old Korean. From Earth." The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Every being in the hall stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the human. Hyunki felt his breathing tubes constrict. It was not possible. The script on the monument wall was found on 12 different worlds, none of them anywhere near the human home planet. The monuments were ancient, far older than human civilization should be. What did you say? Hyunki asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The soldier looked at him, and Hyunki saw fear in those human eyes. Real deep fear? This writing, the man said, pointing at the symbols. It is my language, Korean, but old. Maybe 2,000 years old, maybe more. I learned this from my grandmother when I was a child. Kira's light pulsed rapidly, a sign of excitement or distress. That is impossible. These monuments predate your species' space travel by thousands of years. I know it is impossible, the soldier said, but I can read it. These symbols here, they say something about stars and walking, and this one, it is a warning. Bora moved forward quickly, her datapad already recording. What is your name, human? Jin-ho, the man replied. Private security detail. I am just here to make sure everyone stays safe. Jin-ho, Hyunki repeated. Can you translate more? Jin-ho stepped closer to the wall. His hand trembled as he traced one of the symbols without touching it. I can try, but if this is really Korean, if this is really from Earth, then something is very wrong. My people never had space travel that long ago. We barely had kingdoms and farms. We definitely did not have the ability to carve messages on alien worlds. An alarm began to sound throughout the archive. Within minutes, scientists from every species in the coalition were rushing toward the monument wall. News traveled fast in the archive, and the impossible had just happened. A mystery that had stood for 847 cycles had just been cracked by a human security guard who happened to walk past it. Commander Tae Yang arrived with his security team, his expression dark. He looked at Jin-ho with suspicion and something else, something that looked like fear. Explain this, he demanded. Explain how your primitive species knows the language that has defied our greatest scholars for centuries. Jin-ho met his gaze without flinching. I cannot explain it, Commander. I only know what I see. This is my language from my world. How it got here, I have no idea. Hyunki stepped between them. We need to investigate this properly. Jin-ho, would you be willing to help us translate the complete text? The human looked at the wall again and then at all the beings staring at him. He nodded slowly. Yes, if I can help, I will. But I think we need to be ready for whatever answers we find. Because if my people wrote this, then our history is not what we thought it was. As more scholars gathered and arguments began about how to proceed, no one noticed the way the symbols on the monument wall seemed to pulse with a faint light. Or perhaps it was just the reflection of the dying star outside, casting its last rays before darkness came. The emergency session of the Linguistic Council began 3 hours after Jin-ho's discovery. The council chamber was a circular room with seats arranged in rising tiers, designed so that beings of all sizes and shapes could see each other. Representatives from all 7 coalition species filled the space, their voices creating a mixture of sounds that the translation devices struggled to sort out. Jin-ho sat in the center of the room on a simple chair, looking small compared to some of the larger beings around him. Hyunki stood beside him, having volunteered to speak for the human. Bora was at her station nearby, ready to analyze anything Jin-ho said. Commander Tae Yang spoke first, his voice cold and precise. This human claims to recognize a language that our best scientists could not decode for 847 cycles. I find this suspicious. Perhaps the humans planted these monuments themselves as some kind of trick. That is impossible, Bora said, her skin flashing orange with annoyance. The monuments are made of matter we cannot reproduce. Our dating methods confirm they are at least 3,000 years old. The humans only achieved spaceflight 75 years ago. Then explain how he knows the language, Taeyang shot back. Hyunki raised one of his forearms. Perhaps we should let Jin-ho explain his background. Where did you learn this language, human? Jin-ho cleared his throat. His voice was steady despite being the focus of so many alien eyes. I learned from my grandmother. She was a linguist before the wars on Earth. She studied old languages, ancient texts. When I was a child, she taught me classical Korean because she said our heritage needed to be preserved. The wars? Asked a council member. A blob-like creature named Doc. Yes, Jin-ho said. Before humans united, we fought each other for resources. I was a soldier in those wars. A translator, actually. I specialized in old languages and regional dialects. Armies used old codes based on ancient languages to hide their communications. I learned to decode them. He paused, and something dark passed across his face. After the wars ended, I wanted to get away from all of that. I took a security job on this mission because I thought it would be quiet, just standing guard while diplomats talked. I never expected to find my grandmother's lessons carved into an alien wall. The council chamber fell silent. Hyunki could see that Jin-Ho's story had weight to it. This was not someone who wanted attention or glory. This was someone running from his past who had accidentally stumbled into history. "Can you provide a sample translation?" Hyunki asked gently. Jin-Ho nodded. He pulled out a data pad that showed images of the monument wall. "I spent the last 3 hours studying the photographs. The Korean is old, very old. Some of it is even mixed with older elements that I do not fully understand. But I can read enough." He pointed to a sequence of symbols near the top of the wall. "This part says something like, 'We who walked among the stars first leave this warning to those who follow.'" The reaction in the chamber was immediate. Voices rose in every language, creating chaos. Hyunki's translator struggled to keep up with all the overlapping speech. The implication was clear and terrifying. Humans had been in space before, thousands of years ago, but there was no evidence of this in any archaeological record. "Impossible," Taeyang shouted. "The humans have no ancient ruins, no evidence of advanced technology. They could not have built spaceships 3,000 years ago." "I agree it should be impossible," Jin-Ho said quietly, "but the words are there. I can read them." Bora's voice cut through the noise. "There is more. I have been analyzing the positions of the 12 monument worlds. I just finished the calculations. They form a pattern. They are pointing toward something." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. 12 points of light marked the monument worlds. Lines connected them, and the lines all converged on a single region of space. "The Forbidden Drift," Doc said, his blob body rippling with unease. "Nothing lives there. Just dead stars and spatial anomalies. All coalition species avoid that region." "What if there is a reason it is forbidden?" Bora asked. "What if the monuments are not just messages but markers? Warnings pointing away from something dangerous?" Over the following weeks, Jin-Ho worked with Hyun-Ki and Bora to translate all 12 monuments. They traveled to different worlds in a coalition ship, with Jin-Ho reading the ancient Korean while Hyun-Ki and Bora recorded and analyzed every word. The story that emerged was incredible and frightening. The monuments spoke of people called the First Walkers. They were ancient Koreans who had made contact with an alien race called the Precursors. These precursors gave them faster-than-light technology as a gift, wanting to see what a young species would do with such power. The First Walkers spread across the galaxy. They built colonies on habitable worlds. They explored and learned and created beautiful things. The monuments contained poetry about alien sunsets and songs about missing their home. Jin-Ho's voice often grew thick with emotion as he read passages about people standing under strange stars and remembering Earth. But then the tone changed. The later monuments spoke of something they called the Hunger. The First Walkers had traveled to the region now known as the Forbidden Drift. They found something there, or perhaps something found them. The monuments did not describe what it was, only that it reflected their light and showed them darkness. The final monuments were desperate. They spoke of a terrible decision. The First Walkers chose to return to Earth and destroy their own civilization. They erased their technology and scattered themselves among the primitive humans of Earth. They wanted to hide, to protect the galaxy from what they had awakened. One monument had a passage that Jin-Ho struggled to read. His hands shook as he traced the symbols. "We return to the cradle to sleep. We hide our tools so the children will not burn themselves. Forgive us, forget us. The stars are not yet safe." "They sacrificed everything," Hyun-Ki said softly. "They gave up the stars to protect everyone else. But protect them from what?" Bora asked. The answer came from her astronomical analysis. The Forbidden Drift was not stable. The spatial anomalies there had been growing slowly for centuries. Now they were 40% larger than when the coalition first mapped them hundreds of years ago. Something was active there. Something was growing. News of the translation spread quickly through the coalition. The reaction was not what Jin-Ho had hoped for. Instead of respect for his ancestors' sacrifice, there was fear and suspicion. Commander Taeyang led the opposition. He spoke at public forums and gave interviews. "The humans awakened something terrible once. They are reckless by nature. Look at their history of wars and environmental destruction. They will awaken this hunger again." They cannot help themselves. It is in their blood. A movement grew called the Preservation Order. They demanded that humans be expelled from the coalition immediately. Some even suggested that Earth should be forced to give up its technology and return to a primitive state for the safety of the galaxy. Jin-Ho watched the news broadcasts in his quarters aboard the archive. Hyun-Ki sat with him along with Bora. The three had become unlikely friends during their weeks of work together. "I am sorry," Jin-Ho said. "I just wanted to help. Now I have made everything worse for my people." "You told the truth," Hyun-Ki replied. "That is never wrong, but truth can be frightening, and fear makes people react badly." "Taeyang is calling for a tribunal," Bora said, her skin showing deep blue sadness. "They want to put humanity on trial, to decide if your species should be allowed among the stars." Jin-Ho laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "My grandmother used to say that the truth will set you free. I guess she forgot to mention it might also get you locked up first." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars filled the darkness. His ancestors had walked among those stars once. They had given up everything to keep them safe. Now their descendants were being punished for what they did. "I will testify," Jin-Ho said. "If they want to put humanity on trial, then I will speak for us. Someone has to." Hyun-Ki clicked his mandibles together in what Jin-Ho had learned was a sign of respect. "Then we will stand with you, Bora and I both. You translated the monuments, but we verified your work. We know the truth of what happened. Your ancestors were heroes. We will make sure everyone knows it." The tribunal was scheduled for the following month. Representatives from all coalition species would vote on humanity's fate. The future of Earth and all. Its people would be decided by the words spoken in that chamber. Jin-Ho looked at his two alien friends and felt something he had not felt since before the wars. Hope. Maybe the truth would set them free after all. The translation work continued even as the political storm grew worse. Jin-Ho spent his days studying the monuments with Hyun-Ki and Bora, piecing together the story of his ancient ancestors. Each new revelation felt like discovering a hidden chapter of his own family history. They worked in a secure laboratory deep inside the archive. Holographic projections of all 12 monuments surrounded them, glowing softly in the dim light. Jin-Ho could walk among them, comparing symbols and passages, finding connections between texts carved on worlds thousands of light years apart. "This section is poetry," Jin-Ho said, pointing to a flowing script on the fourth monument. "Listen to this. Under 3 moons I stand and dream of one. The children play in purple grass while my heart remembers green. I am so far from home that home feels like a dream I once had." Bora's skin shifted to a gentle pink. "That is beautiful. Sad but beautiful." "They missed Earth," Jin-Ho said. "Even though they were exploring amazing new worlds, they missed home." "I understand that feeling." Hyun-Ki was examining another section. "This part describes their ships. They called them sky seeds. The technology was not theirs originally, but they adapted it. They made it their own. They were not just using the precursor's gift, they were improving it." "Who were these precursors?" Bora asked. "Why did they give advanced technology to a primitive species?" Jin-Ho found a passage that seemed to answer that question. It says here, "The old ones came to observe. They found us fighting among ourselves as we always did. But they also found us looking up at the stars with longing. They asked our eldest wise ones a question. 'If you could touch the sky, would you?' Our answer pleased them. They said, 'We will give you wings, but you must learn to fly.'" "An experiment," Hyun-Ki said. "The precursors wanted to see what humans would do with faster-than-light travel. And at first we did well." Jin-Ho continued reading more. "The first walkers did not conquer or destroy. They explored. They learned." This monument talks about meeting other primitive species on different worlds. They helped them, taught them things, but never forced them to change. They called it the gentle path. Days turned into weeks. The story grew clearer. The first walkers had created a small empire, but it was not like the empires in Earth's history. They had no slaves, no conquered peoples. They were more like gardeners moving from world to world, planting seeds of knowledge and watching them grow. "They visited your worlds," Jin-Ho said to Hyun-Ki and Bora one day. "I found references. Here, this mentions a species with many eyes and hard shells, and this one describes beings of shifting colors with multiple arms." Hyun-Ki examined the passages carefully. "My people have ancient myths about sky teachers. We always thought they were just stories to explain how we learned to use fire and tools. But what if they were real? What if your ancestors visited us? Bora pulled up historical records from multiple coalition species. You are right. All of us have similar myths, visitors from the sky who taught us and then left. We always assumed they were just myths, stories we told ourselves. But the timing matches. 3,000 years ago, give or take a few centuries, that is when most of our myths placed these visitors. The implications were staggering. The first walkers had not just explored the galaxy, they had shaped it. Every species in the coalition owed their development, at least in part, to the gentle guidance of ancient humans. But then they found the passages about the hunger, and everything changed. The eighth monument contained the most detailed description. Jinho read it aloud, his voice growing quieter as he progressed. We went to the place where light bends wrong. The precursors had warned us never to go there, but we thought we knew better. We thought we were ready to face any mystery. We found a darkness that is not darkness. It showed us ourselves reflected back but wrong. It showed us what we could become if we lost our way. And then it began to follow us. What does that mean? Bora asked. How can darkness show you anything? I do not know, Jinho admitted. The language here becomes unclear. It is like they could not find words to describe what they saw, or maybe they did not want to. The ninth monument was worse. The writing was hurried, less careful than the earlier monuments. It follows our ships. It grows stronger where we travel. We thought we were exploring, but we were feeding it. Every jump we make, every world we touch, it spreads. We are the infection. We are the disease. The 10th monument spoke of arguments among the first walkers. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run farther into the galaxy. But a group led by someone named Sang-Mi made a different proposal. Sang-Mi argued that they could not fight or run. Jinho translated. The hunger fed on their technology, on their very presence among the stars. The only way to stop it was to stop traveling. To give up everything. To go back to Earth and forget. The 11th monument described the decision. It was not unanimous. Many first walkers wanted to warn the galaxy, to tell other species about the danger, but Sang-Mi convinced them that warning would not work. It would cause panic, wars, chaos. Species would fight over who had to give up space travel. The galaxy would tear itself apart. Instead, they chose to lie. They would make it seem like they had awakened something through their own recklessness. They would create a warning that made other species fear the forbidden drift. They would become the cautionary tale, the ghost story that kept others safe. The 12th and final monument was the hardest for Jinho to read. His voice broke several times as he translated Sang-Mi's final words. We take the blame. We tell them we awakened something, so they fear the stars for a while, long enough for the wound to heal, long enough for better technology to be discovered. We become the villains in a story we hope will save everyone. To our children's children's children, if you ever read this, forgive us. We loved the stars, but we loved life more. Sleep well in your cradle. Dream of the sky. And when you finally return to the stars, do it with wisdom we did not have. Tears ran down Jinho's face. He was not ashamed of them. They lied to protect everyone. They destroyed their own civilization, scattered themselves among primitive humans, erased all evidence of what they had been, and they did it knowing that no one would ever thank them, that no one would even know. Hyunki was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. They were not reckless. They were the opposite. They made the hardest choice imaginable. But the hunger did not go away, Bora said. She pulled up her astronomical data. The forbidden drift is growing again. That means the wound never fully healed. Or something is reopening it. Jinho wiped his eyes. The monuments were supposed to keep species away from the drift for thousands of years. Long enough for the problem to fade. But we all developed space travel anyway. We all started cutting through space the same way the precursors taught the first walkers. And now we are making the same wound they tried to heal. Hyunki finished. We are feeding the hunger again without even knowing it. Bora's calculations were grim. At the current rate of expansion, the forbidden drift will become unstable in approximately 50 years. After that, the spatial anomalies will spread throughout the galaxy. I do not know what that means for us, but it cannot be good. Jinho stood up and walked to the holographic display of the final monument. He placed his hand against the light, watching it ripple around his fingers. So my ancestors gave up everything, sacrificed their civilization, and it bought the galaxy 3,000 years. That is all. Now the same problem is back, and we have to face it again. Yes, Hyun-ki said, but this time we have their warnings, their knowledge, and we have you to translate it. That might not be enough, Jin-ho said. Tai-yang and the Preservation Order do not want to hear about sacrifice and wisdom. They are afraid. And afraid people do not think clearly. Then we must make them understand, Bora said firmly. The tribunal is in 3 days. We will present everything we have learned. The full story. Not just the warnings, but the help your ancestors gave to every species. The gentle path they walked. Their final sacrifice. Jin-ho nodded slowly. And if they still vote to expel humanity? If they decide we are too dangerous despite everything, then we face that together, Hyun-ki said. But I do not think it will come to that. Fear is powerful, but so is truth. Your ancestors proved that truth is worth dying for. Surely it is worth fighting for. That night, Jin-ho could not sleep. He kept thinking about Sang-mi and the other first walkers. They had stood under alien skies and made an impossible choice. They had walked away from wonders beyond imagination to protect people they would never meet. He thought about his grandmother, teaching him ancient Korean in their small house. She had no idea she was preserving the language of heroes. She just wanted him to know where he came from. Now that language had revealed a secret that could save or doom the galaxy. Jin-ho just hoped he could tell the story well enough to honor those ancient heroes. They deserved to be remembered not as a warning, but as an example of the best humanity could be. The expedition fleet consisted of 7 ships, 1 from each coalition species. They traveled together in formation, their different designs reflecting the diversity of their builders. Some were sleek and organic-looking, others angular and mechanical. The human ship was smaller than most, a simple research vessel called the Wanderer. Jin-ho stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, watching the stars change as they approached the Forbidden Drift. Beside him were Hyun-ki and Bora. The 3 had become inseparable during the preparation for this journey. Commander Tai-yang's ship flew at the head of the formation, taking the role of military escort. The spatial readings are becoming unstable, reported Min Seo, the human ship's captain. She was a calm woman who had spent years navigating difficult space. Even she looked nervous now. We are still 2 days away from the drift itself, but the instruments are already showing strange fluctuations. Jin-ho studied the displays. Space ahead of them looked wrong somehow. Stars flickered with colors that did not exist in any normal spectrum. Light bent in ways it should not. It made his eyes hurt to look at it for too long. The first walkers described it as a place where light bends wrong, he said. I thought that was poetry. Now I think they were being literal. Hyun-ki's translator made worried clicking sounds. My people have a saying. When the universe shows you something impossible, pay attention. It is trying to teach you a lesson. What lesson could this possibly teach us? Bora asked. Humility, perhaps, Hyun-ki replied. 2 days later, they reached the outer edge of the Forbidden Drift. The fleet slowed to minimal speed. Every sensor was active, recording data. What they found was beyond anything they had imagined. A massive structure floated in the darkness. It was clearly artificial, built from materials that still gleamed after 3,000 years of abandonment. The design was strange but beautiful, combining geometric patterns with flowing curves, and on its hull, carved deep into the metal, were Korean symbols. That is a first walker station, Jin-ho whispered. It survived. How is that possible? Min Seo asked. 3,000 years in this environment should have destroyed anything. The same technology that made the monuments indestructible, Bora suggested. They built this to last. Tae-yang's voice came over the communication channel. All ships maintain defensive positions. The human, the Vaxillian, and the Talesian will board the station with security teams. Everyone else stays ready to extract them if necessary. Jin-ho, Hyun-ki, and Bora suited up and took a small shuttle to the station. Tae-yang joined them personally, along with security personnel from 3 different species. The station's airlock still functioned, responding to Bora's careful technical work. Inside, emergency lights flickered to life. The station's power systems had been in standby mode for 3 millennia, waiting. The corridors were clean, preserved by the same force that protected the monuments. It felt like walking through a tomb. They found a central control room. Holographic displays activated as they entered, showing star maps and data that Jin-ho could not fully understand. But he could read the labels. They were in Korean. Look for logs, Hyun-ki said. Personal records. Anything that might explain what happened here. Bora found a data core that was still active. She interfaced with it carefully, downloading information while trying not to damage ancient systems. I have something. Personal logs. Thousands of entries from different people. Jin-Ho accessed the first log. A holographic image appeared, showing a woman in clothing that looked ancient but recognizably Korean. She had tired eyes but a gentle smile. "My name is Sang-mi," the recording said in Old Korean. Jin-Ho's translator worked to make it understandable for the others. "I am the last director of Station Hope. This will be our final outpost before we return to Earth. I want to leave a record of what happened here, so that if anyone ever finds this place, they will understand." The recording continued. Sang-mi described the final days of the first walkers among the stars. She spoke of the decision to return home, the arguments, the grief. Many of her people did not want to give up space travel. Some believed they could find a way to fight the hunger. Others wanted to warn the galaxy even if it caused chaos. "But we cannot fight it," Sang-mi said. "We have tried everything. The hunger is not a creature that can be destroyed. It is a consequence of our actions. Every time we jump through space, we cut through the fabric of reality. The precursor's technology works by creating tiny wounds in space-time. One wound is nothing. 1,000 wounds can heal, but millions of wounds made over and over in the same places create something permanent." Jin-Ho felt his heart sink. This was worse than they had thought. The recording continued. "We traveled to the place where the wounds were thickest. We thought we would find a weapon or an enemy. Instead, we found a rift. A tear in reality leading to somewhere else. Something on the other side sensed us. It reached through, trying to understand us. When it touched our minds, we saw ourselves reflected back in ways that terrified us. It showed us what we could become if we continued down this path." Sang-mi's face in the recording showed deep sadness. "The precursors warned us never to go there. They knew what they had created with their technology. They gave it to us anyway, wanting to see what a young species would do. We failed their test. We were not wise enough." More recordings followed, different people describing what they saw in the rift. The descriptions were confusing and contradictory, but all of them spoke of darkness that reflected light, of seeing themselves but wrong, of fear and sorrow. Then Sang-mi appeared again, in what was clearly her final recording. "We have made our decision. We will return to Earth and destroy all evidence of what we were. We will scatter ourselves among our primitive ancestors and forget. The wounds we made need time to heal. Centuries, perhaps millennia. We leave these monuments as warnings, so that future species will know to avoid this place until the healing is complete." She paused, looking directly at the recording device. "But I leave this station for a different reason. Inside the data core, you will find our research. The last thing we worked on before returning home. An alternative method for faster-than-light travel. One that does not cut through space-time. One that works with the universe instead of against it." Jin-Ho felt hope surge through him. "They found a solution? The theory is complete," Sang-mi's recording continued. "But we never had time to build it. We had to leave before the hunger followed us back to Earth. If you are watching this, if you have translated the monuments and found this place, then you are the ones we have been waiting for. You are wise enough to understand the danger, and you have the time and resources we did not have." The recording faded. Bora immediately began accessing the research files. Her forearms moved rapidly across the controls, downloading everything. "This is incredible," she breathed. "The mathematics are complex, but it makes sense. Instead of cutting through space-time, this method creates a harmonic resonance with it. You travel by riding the natural vibrations of the universe. Would it work?" Taeyang asked. "I believe so," Bora said, "but it would require completely redesigning every faster-than-light drive in the galaxy. It would be slower than current methods, more expensive. It would take decades to implement fully." Hyun-Ki was studying other data. "There is more here. Analysis of the rift. It has been growing slowly for 3,000 years, feeding on the faster-than-light jumps made by coalition species. But Sang-mi's calculations suggest it can still be healed. If we stop making new wounds, if we switch to this new technology, the rift will close on its own over time." "How much time?" Jin-Ho asked. "Centuries," Hyun-Ki admitted. "But it will work." They continued exploring the station. In a memorial chamber, they found walls covered with names, thousands of them. The first walkers who gave up the stars. Each name was accompanied by a small message. Hopes for the future. Apologies. Love notes to families who would never remember them. Jin-Ho found one that made him stop. To my great-great-grandchildren who will never know me, I hope you dream of the stars. I hope you reach them again someday. And when you do, I hope you do it better than we did. All my love, your ancestor. His grandmother's teachings suddenly made sense. The language had been preserved not just by accident, but by design. Somewhere in the genetic memory of Koreans, there was a knowledge of what their ancestors had been, an unconscious drive to preserve the old language, waiting for the day when it would be needed again. They returned to the fleet with the data. An emergency council was held aboard Taeyang's ship. Representatives from every species examined Sangmi's research. The discussion was intense. This would require every species to rebuild their ships, one representative argued. The economic cost would be enormous. The alternative is the rift growing until it tears the galaxy apart, Bora countered. What is the cost of that? Taeyang spoke, surprising everyone. The humans' ancestors faced this choice alone. They sacrificed everything because they believed it was right. Now we face the same choice, but we can make it together. We can share the burden. He looked at Jinho. I did not trust your species. I thought you were reckless and dangerous, but you came here knowing what we might find, knowing you might be blamed for it. That takes courage. Your ancestors had that courage.